My Mael and my wife kicked me out of my house, threatening to accuse me of fake charges. So I sold the house and made them homeless. I, 34M, never imagined my own wife and mother-in-law would threaten to destroy my life so they could claim my house. Yet that's exactly what happened 6 months ago. I'd been married for 4 years, living in a home I bought outright a few years before the wedding. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. Fully paid off from an inheritance. I felt proud to offer that security to my wife. But cracks started showing when her mother moved in under the guise of helping us with chores. She arrived with luggage, strong opinions, and a sour attitude. At first, I tried to be gracious. My wife insisted it only be temporary until her mother got back on her feet. Weeks passed, but her mother showed no sign of leaving. Instead, she grew more controlling, rearranging furniture, throwing out things she deemed clutter, and making constant remarks about how a real household should run. I mentioned my discomfort to my wife, but she dismissed it. My mother is only trying to help, she'd say, rolling her eyes whenever I expressed concern. Stop making it a big deal. And I swallowed my irritation, not wanting to spark a fight. But tensions built. One evening, I came home from a stressful day at work to find my mother-in-law rummaging through my personal desk drawers. Important papers were strewn about. I confronted her, demanding to know what she was doing. She snapped, "I'm organizing. This house is a mess." When I told her to stop, she raised her voice, calling me disrespectful. My wife joined in, scolding me for upsetting her mother. A swirl of resentment rose in me, but I tried to keep calm. Over the next few days, mother-in-law's meddling intensified. She started inviting relatives over without asking, planning gatherings in her home. My wife refused to see the problem. Whenever I protested, she'd side with her mother, telling me I was too controlling or paranoid. Finally, the confrontation exploded. My mother-in-law demanded that I sign over partial ownership of the house, so we can make real decisions around here. I balked. This was my property, bought before the marriage. I refused. She scoffed. "You have no idea what you're getting into. We can make your life hell." My wife backed her up, unbelievably. She accused me of being stingy, not appreciating how her mother cleaned up our lives. I stood my ground. That's when my mother-in-law threatened the nuclear option. "We can tell the police you got violent. We can say you abuse us. Who do you think they'll believe?" My wife nodded along, glaring. I felt my gut twist in disbelief. They were blackmailing me with false domestic violence claims, just to claim authority in my own home. Furious and frightened, I realized how precarious my situation was. If they called the cops with a sob story, I might face an arrest or a messy legal battle. It happened so fast. In the ensuing argument, they literally told me to get out. My wife said, "This house is more ours than yours now. Leave before we dial 911 and report you for abuse." Faced with that threat, I grabbed a few belongings and left, my mind reeling over the betrayal. The house I'd worked for, the life I thought I had, all upended by these manipulative demands. I crashed with a friend that night, still in shock. How could my wife and mother-in-law wield fake domestic violence threats as a weapon? This was my house, and I'd been exiled by intimidation. My friend listened, anger sparking in his eyes. "This is insane," he said. "They can't get away with this. The house is in your name." But I had to be cautious. If I confronted them directly, they might make good on their threat, and the legal mess would be unimaginable. My friend connected me with a lawyer he knew, who specialized in property disputes and family law. That was a crucial step. The lawyer confirmed that the house was indisputably mine. There was no formal agreement transferring ownership to my wife, no prenuptial or postnuptial. Legally, I could evict them. However, the lawyer warned about their threats. If they accuse you of violence, it could complicate things. You need a strategic approach. Seething inside, I asked if I could sell the house. The lawyer said, "Absolutely. If the deed's solely in your name, you're free to sell unless there's some legal block. But you'd need them out of the property first or arrange a sale with the new owner fully aware." The idea of selling my home just to rid myself of them felt extreme, but also oddly satisfying. The next twist came 2 weeks later. My wife and mother-in-law left town for a big wedding, her sister's. They'd be gone a full 7 days. The second I heard they'd be away, an opportunity bloomed in my mind. If they wanted to steal my home, I'd show them how powerless they actually were. With them out of the house, I could quietly finalize a sale. But I had to be swift and discreet. I returned to my house that same night, carefully stepping inside. It felt strange, like I was trespassing in my own home. Sure enough, the place was unnervingly tidy. My mother-in-law must have rearranged everything. Anger bubbled up, but I focused on the plan. I contacted a real estate agent recommended by my lawyer. I explained the urgent need to list the property for a quick sale at 20% less than the market price, disclosing the occupant's situation was resolved, which, legally, it would be once I sealed the deal. To my surprise, the market in my neighborhood was hot. The agent assured me we could get a quick deal if I was flexible on timing. I was flexible on everything, so long as it was done in under a week. Potential buyers visited over the next few days, me playing the polite seller, never mentioning the entire fiasco behind it. Offers rolled in. By day 5, I had a solid cash offer. That was enough. I accepted, signed the paperwork, and arranged a rapid closing. Then came the final piece, ensuring that legally, once the sale closed, I could have the new owners evict any trespassers, my own wife and mother-in-law included. My lawyer confirmed that once the deed was transferred, they'd have zero claim. The new owner would be free to lock them out. My heart pounded with nervous triumph. This was drastic, but they'd forced my hand. Let them see how it feels to be kicked out with no warning. On the 7th day, everything was done. The house was no longer mine, ironically. I walked out with the final check from the sale, a mixture of sorrow and satisfaction swirling in my gut. I'd loved that house once, but they'd tainted it, turning it into a battleground. Now, it was the new owner's property. They were a young couple who seemed eager to move in immediately, especially with a sweet deal I'd given them for a fast transaction. I explained the situation lightly, just saying my family situation changed and I need to sell quickly. They didn't press for details. That same evening, my wife and her mother returned from the wedding, presumably expecting to gloat in their house and maintain their manipulative control. But when they arrived, they discovered the locks changed. Even the key code I'd set up was disabled. Confused, they apparently tried to call me. I let it go straight to voicemail. Then they banged on the door until the new owner opened it, startled. He politely but firmly told them, "I'm sorry, this is my home now. Who are you?" From what I heard afterward, courtesy of a neighbor friend who witnessed the meltdown, my wife and mother-in-law shrieked in rage. They insisted there was a mistake, that they lived here. The new owner showed them the deed, pointed to the real estate paperwork. "I bought this place from the legal owner. If you were living here, I'm sorry, but that's not valid anymore. You have no rights. If you refuse to leave, I'll call the police." In seconds, their smug illusions crumbled. My phone rang nonstop, my wife leaving furious messages, demanding I fix this mix-up. Then the mother-in-law threatened me via text. "We'll go to the police and say you threatened us." The same old intimidation trick. But now it was useless. The property was out of my hands, so they couldn't pin me with trespassing or domestic violence. I had a lawyer prepared to defend me if they tried. Legally, they had no hold on me anymore. Finally, I picked up one call, my wife raging, "How dare you do this? You can't sell the house, it's ours." I calmly reminded her, "It was my house, in my name. I sold it. You threatened me with fake charges, kicked me out. So I left, and took the house with me, in a manner of speaking." She screamed, "We have nowhere to go. We have all our things inside." I repeated, "I gave the new owners your contact info. You can arrange with them to collect your belongings if they allow it." Then I ended the call. The satisfaction was overwhelming, though tinged with sadness. This was my marriage unraveling after all. They had no recourse, realistically. They tried to approach the police about theft of their property, but the cops saw it for what it was, my house, my legal right to sell. My mother-in-law couldn't call the shots anymore. Freed from the blackmail, I found myself relieved, freed, but also reeling from the betrayal that led us here. Predictably, they tried one last desperate move. They showed up at my workplace, cornering me in the parking lot. My mother-in-law lunged at me, wagging a finger in my face, yelling how I ruined their lives. My wife wept dramatically, wailing about how I took the roof over her head. I simply pointed out, "You threatened me with false charges, forced me out of my own home, demanded partial ownership. Now you have the consequences." A security guard approached, and they hurried off, presumably embarrassed. Soon after, I filed for divorce. My wife attempted to countersue, claiming emotional abuse, but she had zero evidence. She tried to use the threat of domestic violence again, but my lawyer swiftly cut that down. A restraining order could have backfired on them, given they forcibly ejected me from my property in the first place. Ultimately, they had no credible accusations. We hammered out a small settlement. No spousal support, as she had no grounds. The mother-in-law's meddling cost them big time. Word spread among relatives. Some felt sorry for my wife, but once I explained her threat to falsely accuse me, many realized how toxic the dynamic was. My in-laws, well, ex-in-laws, ended up bouncing between relatives' couches, apparently. The house they believed they controlled was gone. They had no claim on my new place either. I found a small apartment temporarily, biding my time. The sense of poetic justice was indescribable. When the divorce was finalized, I walked out of the courthouse lighter than I'd felt in months. The meltdown in front of the judge, my wife sobbing, mother-in-law yelling about how unfair it was, didn't move anyone. The judge, unamused, reminded them that intimidation via false DV claims was serious misconduct. He warned them that if they pursued it further without evidence, they could face legal repercussions. In the end, my wife and mother-in-law lost the war they started. They had no home, no share in the property, and no leverage to extort me. Their smear campaign fizzled once people saw them brandishing false accusations like weapons. Meanwhile, I kept my dignity, avoided a wrongful arrest, and emerged free from their manipulative grasp. Of course, part of me felt pangs of regret. I'd loved my wife once. But seeing how easily she turned against me, orchestrating blackmail and letting her mother run rampant in my home, convinced me I'd only lost an illusion. The final result might be harsh, but they forced my hand. If they hadn't tried to twist the law against me, I wouldn't have needed that drastic measure. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding. My finances, my peace of mind. They can't threaten me anymore. And as for the house, I hope the new owners fill it with warmth and respect that was sorely lacking in my final days there. My only real regret is not standing up for myself sooner, but at least I ended things on my terms.